Right. Good evening, everybody. So this is Guru Tom Pena, and tonight we've got Stephanie Lee for episode 331. So just before I bring her, get her in, remember tomorrow it's going to be Burton Richardson for episode 332, and he's going to be interviewed by Dean Franco. Okay. So let's get Steph in. Hi, Steph.
Hey Tom, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. We had a blip.
Yes, we did. Technical difficulties.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. And at least this is one of the first.
Yeah, no worries. It happens. I feel like it wouldn't be a true virtual call without some kind of technical issue.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's um
Yes,
so
I stared at Dean's chair, empty chair, for about 15
10
minutes or
minutes, 10
so.
minutes. So yeah, it was like actually when you said I can see a chair, I was like, what? Where am I?
Yeah, I see an empty chair. I don't see Tom. What's
Yeah.
going on?
Oh,
So,
okay.
we got it sorted. Thanks,
Yeah,
Dean.
yeah, yeah. Thanks, Dean. Thanks, Dean. Yeah. Yeah, I figured it was like when you sent me the pictures, like, oh yeah, because he did that test run with Burton earlier on, so he must have been like in a rush. Forgot to switch off his Be Live as well.
Hmm.
Right. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I had a full day, and just before this interview, I was practicing. I was rehearsing with some of the dads. So
Oh, really? What style of dance?
it's gonna be a pop dance. It's Michael Jackson. So or try to do Michael
Hmm.
Jackson.
All right.
We're gonna end up doing a dad dance version of Michael Jackson.
Nice.
So yeah, yeah. So how about you? Busy day?
Not too much so far. I'm in California, so I think I'm about 8 hours behind you.
Yeah.
So I have
Okay.
most of the day ahead of me actually.
All right. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, you're still like in the afternoon, about 2 o'clock there.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get started. But before we do that, let's say hello to everybody who's tuning in. So Mila, hi Mila, hi Dean.
Hello.
Guys, if you're basically watching this podcast with Stephanie, please say hi. Tell us where you're watching from, and also if you got any question for Steph, FMA related, okay, please put it in the comment section. Okay. All right. So maybe we can start. I know we've already started like the journey to martial arts last night during your test run. So
Hmm.
let's go back a little bit and
Sure.
maybe pa, name, scream through like the taekwondo part, and let's get into the FMA section a little bit more because you
Okay.
you
Sure.
you ha- you have quite a nice journey in FMA actually.
Thank you. Yes, well, just to summarize what I was talking about in the test stream yesterday, I started my martial arts journey in general in college. Before that, when I was in high school, middle school, I basically was the kid who did not participate in sports at all. I was terrible at running. I was always the last person to be picked for the kickball team and dodgeball and whatnot. You did not want me on your team because I just sucked. But once I got to college, I had to take up various sports and try them out because there was a PE requirement in order to graduate. One of the clubs that was there was the Sport Taekwondo Club, also Olympic style Taekwondo. I started there in my freshman year and I did it while I was in college. And that really informed a lot about what I later looked for in martial arts and how I later got into Filipino martial arts. And I'm not going to go into a lot of the details about Taekwondo and whatnot. That's not the focus of this. But it taught me a lot about the different attributes and the elements that
Mhm.
I later came to really cherish and look for in martial arts and the specific styles that I looked for within Kali. So at the Taekwondo Club, that was taught by Master Dan Chuang and also Christina Park. They were phenomenal coaches and teachers. They were extremely accomplished within the Taekwondo world. And one of the things that they really, really emphasize, other than basic attribute development like flexibility, power, speed, is the layering and the
Hmm.
efficiency. And I later learned that in Lamego Stig with Ben, which is balance, economy of motion, and non-telegraphic motion, they didn't use those terms in Taekwondo, but they emphasized all of those things, balance and footwork, and making sure that you were developing your whole body and not just focusing on one thing. They emphasized technique in order to be as fast and as smooth as possible.
Hmm.
And also there was tons of drills with respect to not telegraphing any of your emotions to give it away. And the other thing that I think, at least in my personal experience, that they pushed for and taught very explicitly repeatedly was layering and not doing single direct attacks.
Yeah.
They were really into feints and fakes and really emphasizing combinations in order to safely bridge the gap between yourself and your opponent. And those were incredible things that I later took with me later on in my journey. And also just the support and the community that they managed to build. And it was uh, just to give a little bit of context, this I joined it as a PE, but it was a club, and
Hmm.
it wasn't an official club either at the time, or a sport. It was just
Yeah.
kind of a bunch of students and Master Twong and Christina Park training in a room in a dorm,
Okay.
basically. Yeah, and and there was a certain underdog kind of feel, and
Hmm.
there was a lot of emphasis on sparring, and so we were these nerds. We were all nerds. We were not known for sports, our university, not at all, and we had to build up not only a reputation within the school to recruit, but also to compete at the collegiate level
All right.
in New England and also at the national level as well. And just the amount of support that they provided, that everyone would cheer for one another, regardless, even though there was only one person from the team on the mat generally on
Hmm.
each ring, everyone was there and supporting you, and there was a great community and feel like we were all in it together. And even people like even white and yellow belts could contribute to our
Yeah.
victory, and there was to some extent a certain level of egalitarianness to that, and that really really shaped what I was looking for when looking for schools and other martial arts and instructors moving forward. Uh, it was kind of a crazy time. It was like if you want like a feel good movie where
All
you
right.
have an underdog who is totally unknown and comes out of nowhere and like takes on the big bad at the time, like
Okay.
that was definitely us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so that was pretty cool, and that was a time that I really cherished. And when I left college and started looking for other martial arts, those were really things that I started to look for.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
and
how many females were there in your group in Taekwondo during that time?
quite a lot. And
Okay.
interestingly, the women teams were among the strongest. The boys definitely did a great job, and they contributed for sure. But having someone like Christina being a role model, and there were other fantastically talented other women taekwondoists on this team as well, who were also incredibly inspirational and who
Mm.
continued on in the sport to do like
Yeah.
crazy things and compete at the world level.
Yeah.
I wasn't that person, but just having those people there and seeing that yes, there are other women who are not just doing well but amazing,
Hmm.
that also really informed as well my journey and what I look for and how I eventually came to find Brenda King. But before all of that, after I left college, I spent a period of time looking for other martial arts. I did
Okay.
actually try a couple other Taekwondo schools, and I just didn't feel the same
The
level
same vibe.
of community and also level of instruction there. And
Hmm.
I also understood at fairly early on that while Taekwondo makes amazing athletes and that they are really good at what they do, they don't necessarily teach everything that you would want to know as a woman in terms of self-defense, either
Hmm.
domestically or on the street. And so that's why I wanted to try other martial arts as well that could
Okay, to
teach
fill up.
me some more
Yeah.
practical applications. So a very logical branch to that was Muay Thai, since they have kind of a similarity in their styles. And then I also went and tried other places, and eventually I settled into Inasanto style FMA and Jeet Kune Do for a
Okay.
while. And in 2012, I was invited to a seminar at a school called NorCal JKD, and that was run by Brenda King and also Danny Eggert. And they were hosting a seminar with Guru Roger Abdulos from Lemeco Estig Combatives. And so I met them all basically at the same time.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, as well as Ohio. Ohio was also there too. And that was the school that really appealed to me and had all of the same characteristics that I had learned and emphasized a lot of those important efficiencies and non-telegraphic motion and and balance, and yeah, it was just a great time.
Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, uh, just basically like taekwondo. Correct me if I'm wrong. Even like the your journey to black belt, you can either do it mostly through competition or um, basically through forms. I did hear that some black belts managed to get their black belts through competition, knowing less of the form, and some black belts did the other way. Was it
Hmm.
true? Was
That
it
may
kind of
be
true?
true in some other schools. At least under Master Tuong, we were taught both and were required to do both.
Both. Oh, that's good.
And test in both. Yeah.
That's good
And
because
competition was very much emphasized for both as
mm,
well.
yeah,
Hmm.
I really yeah because at least that will give you a good balance of growth in the art itself if you're basically doing if you're doing both.
Exactly. I like to say that in martial arts, there's the martial part and there's the art part, right?
Yeah.
And so the martial part is all of the sparring, and the art is often the forms, but they're not completely separate. They definitely feed into one another.
Yeah.
The forms had, at least at one point in time, intentionality in
Mm-hmm.
terms of actual application and fighting. And if the art is continuing to evolve, the fighting will also then inform the forms and they will become updated as
Yeah,
well.
that's true.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, that's nice. So how long did you stay in Muay Thai then?
Just a couple of years. And I also bounced around a couple times as well. It wasn't particularly disciplined, I would say.
And you didn't compete in Muay Thai.
No, I didn't. The schools that I went to didn't really do much in the way of sparring in Muay Thai.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So they're like mostly like forms, at
It was mostly
development of.
partner and pad work
Okay.
and bag work.
Okay. So when you first, let's say, when you first met Brenda,
Hmm.
what was the impression that she left you?
Oh man, just the energy. She had a dynamicism about her, both in her personality and also her movements, and the fact that she was an older, petite woman who could just toss larger guys all over and was just beating the crap out of everyone. That definitely left an impression for sure. And I was like, wow, okay, how do I be like her? Like what? How do I
Okay.
do that? Because she is about the same build and whatnot, and having again that the the theme of having real life role models and instructors, someone who can actually show you and see
Yeah.
someone who is like you doing something and being amazing, that was absolutely Brenda. And
Wow.
also Roger to some extent as well. He also is, he's super fit, but he's not like a huge guy, so
Yeah, actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's really interesting, and especially coming from a place where I'm not a large person. Most people are bigger than me, so seeing someone who can apply techniques where
Mhm.
you are able to actually pull it off in real time using your strength and your attributes and flexibility, that's incredible.
Yeah. We got a comment here from Mila.
Hmm.
Nice to have a female role model that's petite too.
Absolutely, yeah, it is. Because at the end of the day, we're all human and people, but our our bodies are all made slightly differently, and we have more curves. So you have to take into
Mm.
account that more women are smaller,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
also just it just at least for other women, it makes it a little easier to signal and create an environment that is safe for us to train in.
Yeah.
We have to take into account the fact that many women who show up in martial arts schools, they're looking for self-defense not as a theoretical. Something
Mm.
bad actually has happened to them. I think there was like a study in 2014 by YouGov that was like, I think 2 out of 3 women in the US and the UK like have experienced some form of physical violence before over the age of 15. And so
Hmm.
yeah, it's and yeah, that same amount has also been with sexual harassment too.
Yeah.
So when women are looking for schools, I think it's extremely helpful to see that there is a woman instructor with which you can train and be comfortable with, because not every woman is comfortable being touched and
Yeah.
in a full contact sport.
Yeah, that's true. And even though you're doing it within the context of self-defense or martial arts, still
Mm-hmm.
you've got some kind of like boundary. Okay. So,
Mm-hmm.
right. Okay. Christine, check. Go, Steph.
Hi,
Ron
Christine.
CV,
Hi,
you go,
Ron.
Steph.
Oh,
And
and thank you, Mila. Yeah, I
yeah,
100% agree. Having women instructors and is can be such a motivational and inspiring thing. It
of
certainly did
course.
in my journey, and it also just makes it literally a reality. Growing
Yeah.
up, I watched women role models, but frequently those characters in movies and TV, they were written and created by men for men and were not necessarily relatable to women, right? So
Mm.
actually having a real life woman in front of you who can teach you, and you can just be like, teach me everything. Like that is so fantastic, right? And it is unfortunately rare, I think, but
Hmm.
um, I think it's getting better.
Okay. Since we are in the topic, okay, of having female instructors and being role models, is did your journey inspire you to become an instructor yourself?
Um, to be honest, not really.
Okay,
I never
fair enough.
personally sought to become an instructor for the vast majority of my journey. And this can be said also in my career too. Like I never wanted to go into management or anything, but I kind of got called into it or promoted up into it. Uh, so um, yeah, just what I like to say is that it can be a fight simply being there. I'm
Hmm.
not just in FMA, but in other sports that I do, being a mechanical engineer and also as a cave diver. There aren't very many women in any of those things, and when you are a minority, any minority, and this doesn't necessarily count towards being a woman. This could be any minority. Is you often experience what I like to think of as a death by 1,000 paper cuts, and
Okay.
it's like you're not dealing with any explicit discrimination. At least I personally haven't,
Yeah.
thankfully, had to
Mm.
deal with a lot of explicit sexism or racism, but there's all these like little microaggressions that occasionally happen, and
That's true.
over time
That's
they
true.
add up,
That's true.
and they
That's true.
just add that little niggling seed of doubt. Like, am I supposed to be here? Like,
Mm,
when you introduce yourself and you talk about what you do and you say I'm an engineer, a martial artist, they're like, oh, I wouldn't have expected that from you. And I'm like, so what do you expect? Like, what does an engineer or a cave diver or a martial artist look like to you, right?
yeah.
And so when you are dealing with that and other minorities, or I should say, like, fewer represented people uh, are in an activity or career, simply
Hmm.
seeing one other helps so much to make you feel like you belong and
Of
that you
course.
can succeed,
Of course.
right? So you don't even necessarily have to be an instructor or manager or a person above,
Okay.
but it really can help create a feeling of solidarity and that you can do well in that activity or career.
Okay. So, well, I've already asked you regarding if it basically inspired you to become a teacher, okay, in your journey, and you
Mm-hmm.
said no. But now that you are teaching,
Mm-hmm.
um, are you like, do you think you're basically putting on the same vibe to your students as a model, especially to your female students?
Not intentionally, but I would like to. I think certainly it should be a requirement of all instructors to hold themselves to a certain level of
Of
excellence
course.
and to
Of
create
course.
an atmosphere that is welcoming to new
Hmm.
students. And if my presence and me simply being an instructor and running the room helps to inspire them, then I'm all for it, because I would love it if there were more women
Yeah,
who participated in FMA.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But it's not
Yeah.
something that I'm like, ah, yes, I am doing this thing because I
Okay.
want
All
more
right.
women specifically.
Okay. That's fine. That's fair enough. That's a fair. Steph, my chair asked, how can we get more women in FMA? And also, what would advocate them for joining? That's
Okay, so we're
supposed to
getting
be my
into
next
the,
question, but yeah, Dean beat me to it. Okay.
man, that is such a hard question. I think, well, there's also the other half of that coin. There's getting women into the door and
Mm,
then keeping them,
retaining. Yeah.
right? There's the attrition as well.
Mm,
I think that being able to show that FMA applies to a lot of the interests of women, either through self defense, more practical self defense that is taught to women,
mm,
also in the advertisements. Like, when you look at a lot of flyers for seminars, when you look at the websites of schools, oftentimes you see like pretty much all
men.
men and
Mm.
this token woman, or and that's about
The
it. So
muse.
yeah, so when a woman is looking for a martial arts school, and they see that it's basically just all
All
dudes,
men.
they may
Yeah,
not necessarily want
that's
that.
true.
And I recognize that also creates kind of a paradox, because if you have no
Mm.
women, but you want to recruit women, how do you bring them in, right?
Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then in terms of the attrition, so once you've actually, let's say a woman shows up at your martial arts school and she doesn't know anything, like, again, trying to make it seem like it's a safe space. And as I said before, the sad reality is 2/3 of them have probably experienced some form of harassment or violence already. Like,
Mm.
but you don't need to like coddle them or baby them. And then I've
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
it
yeah,
taken
yeah.
too far in the other direction, where they're like
Mm.
really nice to the girl, and it's just like, oh my gosh, please just punch with some power. Like, I can hold the focus mitts just fine, thank you. um uh, yeah, so it's striking a balance.
Yeah. And I think also it's important for even like male instructors to realize that um when they teach like females, even in martial arts, they can't they can't really like force it the way the way they train guys.
Mm-hmm.
because there's still a difference between the two. Okay,
Yeah.
mindset wise, emotionally wise, psychologically wise, and even physically, there's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
You have to at one point adjust it, adjust the way you approach teaching women, the same as the way you approach teaching somebody who is, I would say, has a physical disability. You have to modify the way you approach
Mm-hmm.
things. Okay, as an instructor, I mean, you need to be able to cater and to modify the way you approach, the way you teach, according to basically to your student,
Mm-hmm.
without basically like watering down everything. So at least, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right,
Agree. I definitely don't think you should water down or try to dumb down the
yeah,
material. I think that that's definitely going to alienate
yeah,
a lot of people.
yeah.
But I think as a culture, and I'm American, so this is coming from an American cultural perspective. I think, and I have had some conversation with other women about this. Is I think at least in American society, when we're kids, you see that a lot of the times boys have been encouraged to kind of roughhouse and play, and
Mm,
they're
mm,
constantly touching each other, whereas girls are told to be more prim and proper, to not beat each other up physically or whatnot. And I think that can carry over when we become adults. We still are. I've definitely noticed with women students that they are not as immediately into um, the full contact. So you
yeah,
kind of,
that's
just
true.
let them, like, just work on pads for a while first, like, or in the air. You don't have to significantly modify to
Mm,
accommodate them, right? Um,
mm,
but
that's
just
true.
being aware of that. And also, I've noticed as well that a lot of women, they don't have the same level of confidence or self-esteem that a lot of the male students have.
Yeah.
So I think they require a bit more upright and upfront and explicit encouragement that
Mm.
they are in fact doing well.
Mm,
And
that's true.
I think that really, really helps build up their confidence. And because a lot of times, I think a lot of the fact that they aren't going very hard is because they are not confident in their
Yeah.
ability. So if
Mm,
just one compliment can really change
mm,
the dynamic behind that.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
explicit encouragement, I think, also is extremely
Yeah.
helpful. And those are all things, like, nothing that I have said is groundbreaking. It can apply to men too. So,
Yep.
like, yeah, right, like,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
That's true. I mean, yeah, encouragement is really important. It's not always like
Hmm.
trying to criticize or give critique to a person.
Hmm.
Tell the person if the person is doing good and what basically what it is that he is doing good.
Exactly. I think a mark of a good instructor is being able to do both. You want to give
Exactly.
them constructive and critical feedback because
Yeah,
you want your students to improve. But at the same time,
exactly.
if
That's true.
you see those students needing encouragement, you
Yeah,
should praise them when they do a good job.
exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. Exactly. So there's a question from Christine here. Do we
Hmm.
have to change the way we teach towards women? Why not teach the same way?
No, I don't think so necessarily. Like I said, like, giving words of encouragement, doing pad work, that's not necessarily changing or treating them
Mm.
differently, I should say. Like, um, I'm not sure if I really answered that question. I think they absolutely should be taught the same way and the
The
same
same way.
material.
Mm. Yeah.
I think, again, it goes to more of those unspoken rules and the lack of those little paper cut microaggressions that
Mm.
add up over time.
Yeah. I think it might be that the approach can be modified, but not in a different way, just modified to be able to accommodate
Mm-hmm.
the differences. That's all you need. You can still teach the same syllabus. You can go through the
Yes.
same the same the same drill, the same training, but
Yes.
you can basically like, even though maybe even the way you teach it, you break it down, it basically can be slightly diff can slightly differ
Mm-hmm.
from from one person to the other. Not necessarily between gender, not necessarily between abilities, but sometimes you just have to like modify the way you approach things depending on the person as well. It's it's especially when you coach somebody. That's how you have to do anyway. You
Yeah,
can't
I
treat them
mean,
all at the same time, at the same way.
yeah, like they're all individual people, and if
Yeah,
there's a new student that comes in through the door,
yeah,
it is prudent for you as the instructor to assess them and
exactly.
understand what their experience level is, what their fitness level is, what they're looking
Exactly.
for.
Mm,
And sometimes women are looking for different things, and you just have to do that. So you are doing basically the same assessment across
mm,
all people, but the things that women may specifically want might be different. And,
yeah, that's
communication,
true.
yeah, exactly,
That's true.
is important. And I think
Yeah.
in one of the other things that I often tend to see in classes, not here, but in just in the past in general, is that oftentimes the women accidentally get segregated off into a corner and the women only train with women. I think it's great
Hmm.
when the instructor actually mixes things up and makes men and women train together.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. Not all women are the same. So yes, individual assessment. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, assessing your students and tailoring your teaching for their needs. That is exactly what I mean, teachers try to strive for. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but we try to strive for that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to always acknowledge the uniqueness of your student, regardless of the gender, regardless of its ability, so that you
Mm-hmm.
should be able to like approach your student in a better way. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Okay. So uh, yeah. Okay. We got a question from Dean, but we'll go back to this one once we get into
Okay.
yeah. So okay. So um, at least we've already like managed to go through like your the teaching and everything.
Yeah.
We jump a little bit, but it's fine.
Yeah, women
It's fine.
in anything is can be a bit of a sticky topic. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah. Okay. So
mhm.
you're both now a certified instructor both in Inosanto and in Lameco, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Which came first?
Inasanto came first. I was exposed to that. That being said, Gurudan Inasanto did train under Penonguro Edgar Salite. So there is Lameko material within the Inasanto school. So I wouldn't say that they're
Com-
completely separate,
separate,
and
yeah.
Rodan certainly credits a lot of his material to Lameko as well, and to all the other systems. What Indasana has done is taken material from many different gurus and grandmasters and whatnot, and kind of what he has really done, I think, well for the sport, other than promoting it and making it well known, especially within the United States, is that he has done an extremely good job in documenting and creating a curriculum and encouraging practitioners of his system and his school to not just study his stuff, but also to take their journeys further and find other martial artists and masters, and take what you can, and leave what doesn't work for you. And so I wouldn't necessarily say that they're like totally separate as a result.
Separated. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe now we can go back to Dean's
Uh-huh.
question. The difference between methodologies among Inosanto blend and Tulameco training.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I would say that the Inosanto blend, it's an incredibly good introduction to a lot of different aspects of FMA, different weapons, different disarms, different ranges, everything. Um, where Lameko really shines, I think, is in sparring and practical application of taking all that. Like I think in Inosano, they have both, right? As I mentioned, there's like the martial and the art part, and so they present both. I think because of the emphasis that Punangoro Edgar had in Lameko, it's very, very much focused on sparring.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've removed quite a lot of the other stuff from the other systems and focused it very much on the application instead. And they've really emphasized the efficiency
Okay.
and the layering.
Which, yeah,
Hmm.
which basically you're going to show some of us later on with
Yes,
Bob.
that'll be part of.
With Bob.
Yes, I'm by
Okay.
myself, so instead I'm going to have a Bob be my assistant.
Yeah, okay. So there's a question from Baste.
Okay.
Where in the US do you teach at?
Okay. Here, this is at the Integrated Island Warrior Arts, which is in Menlo Park, California. And this, I'm one of several instructors. The school was started by Joe Hikali, and we share the space with another school with Ken Chun of Wing Chun Dynamics. And the other instructors there is Ron Belisi and Michelle Korb, Alexandra Tan.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there you
Mhm.
go. So if you want to learn face to face with
Mhm.
Guru Stephanie, then that's where you need to go.
Yes.
Okay. But you do. Since we are already in the basically in the line of question of where do you teach? Do you do Zoom? Do you offer Zoom lessons?
I
Do you offer online lessons?
I personally don't, but I certainly have been approached by it. So I'm thinking of starting that potentially. So if there are people out there who want to learn Lameko or Nasanto, they can definitely contact me.
All right. So that could be like a group class or one to one
Uh,
online class.
yeah, either I'd be up for either.
All right. Cool guys. So there you are. There's a comment from Robert Small. The culture
Okay.
today, people expect that it needs to be fun. That's a good point, Robert. You must express in the beginning that at times it will be, but at times also it will be difficult and physical. That's
Yeah,
true.
100%
That
true.
is true.
I definitely agree with that because while it's important to have fun, because if you're not having fun, you're not going to keep people. They're probably not going to stay if you're just torturing them 100% of the time. You still also need to challenge them and push them to the limits because that's how you get better, right?
Mm,
Mhm. So
that's true.
hopefully a good instructor is able to balance all of those things together.
Yeah, that is true. Ron comments, "Go Island Warriors."
Yes. Hi, Ron. He's also one of the instructors here.
Oh, okay. Pleased to
Mhm.
meet you, Ron.
Mhm.
Baste said, I lived in downtown San Francisco for 5 years. COVID kicked me out. I'll be in San Francisco on Friday. Would be great to say hello, but Menlo Park may be too far away from me to go to.
Okay, well, yeah, contact me afterwards.
Okay. Dean said you should absolutely teach Lameco. There are not enough propagating the art.
Yes, for sure. I would definitely like to, and especially now that Guru Roger has very much, I'm very grateful for this for making me one of his instructors. I can.
Yeah. Follow up question from Christine. How did you get into Lameco? How did you meet Guru Roger?
Uh, I met him at the same time that I met Brenda King at a school called NorCal JKD. I met him back in 2012. So I've been training in his system off and on for about 10 years. I was attending his seminars fairly regularly. And then I also started training with Lameko under Guru Hal Campbell. We had trained together a lot in NorCal JKD, but then he then went off on his own journey, and we reconnected in 2017, 2018, and that's when I started training with him as well separately.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for those who are basically watching this now, if you want to see Steph in action, go to YouTube and search for the interview with Heil because Stephanie was assisting Heil.
Yes,
in
we do a lot
yeah,
of the knife flow drills from
yeah,
Lameko during that demo.
yeah. You see, you're going to see how deadly she is. The smiling assassin.
Yes.
Yeah, Dean said it's that's awesome, particularly the backyard curriculum, which is different.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we haven't we we are good with basically your journey. Is there anything that we missed in your journey?
Um, I think in terms of FMA, not really. Those are the major points.
Yeah. Okay. So um right. So what's the time difference between or the year difference between you becoming an instructor in Osanto and you becoming an instructor in Lameco?
I became an instructor in Inasanto in, I believe, 2018.
Okay.
And I became an instructor in Lameko basically just a couple months ago.
Wow.
Mhm.
Okay. So guys, are you ready to see Stephanie in action with Bob? Maybe we can start doing the demo.
Yeah, sure. So,
Okay.
yeah. So I don't know. Can you hear me from over here?
There you go.
How does
Yep.
that look on the camera?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
See that okay? Okay. Perfect. Awesome. All right. Well, since we were talking so much about beginners, I'll start off with some more of the beginner material. I have to like, all right, there we go. When I'm closer to the camera. But here at the school, we have BOBs, which are the body opponent bags. What I really like about using them is that they create quite a lot of resistance to your strikes. I think it's extremely important and useful to teach beginners in the air and also against one another so that they get used to their strikes and hitting opponents' sticks. But what's great about the bob is that you can go on them pretty hard and they're very representative of hitting a human body without actually hitting a training partner, you know? Like, I'm
Mm.
going to go quite light on this because there's not much water in the base. So if I hit it too hard, I'm going to knock it over, and that's just awkward. So, um, but what's fantastic about the bob and how it really is useful, especially from a Lameko training stance, is that Lameko is very much about layering your strikes and broken rhythm. That's something that is extremely emphasized in their system. And something that can be very difficult to explain or really feel without a tool like this is that when you have an impact against something, whether that is a stick or a body, there's a reactionary force against it. And that creates a bit of a bounce. And that is an important part of Lameko. And I believe that their lightning bolt symbol is actually based on that bounce, right? So, and what's also great about a training tool like the Bob is it actually forces you to understand your distance to the target, and also where you're striking along the stick or the sword. I think sometimes when you're in the air or even just training with a partner, it can be very easy for you to strike in the middle of the stick and be less conscious about it. Like it's okay in certain systems and in certain ranges for you to be using the middle of the stick, but you want to do so with a intentional and conscious method. So if you're just bashing your way with the stick and you're not really paying attention at all to where the stick is and where you're hitting, it's very easy to do that with a partner who's also stick to stick. Whereas you can feel on a target like this the difference. If I'm doing it at tip, you can pull through really quick, right? Whereas if I'm using the center, like the head is not going to let me go through if I just use the exact same motion. And so you have to actually be cognizant of if you're using a sword, the edge, and also the slicing motion so that you don't just get stuck. Now, it could be argued that if you've managed to hit a person here, they're probably dead anyway, and it's okay if your weapon got stuck. But let's assume that you're in a sparring competition and this is perhaps your drunk Uncle Bob and not someone you want to murder. So it's important to develop that. And then also, what's great, as I mentioned before, was the range, like whether you're in close range, it's vibrato, or if you're more in a Largo range. Largo, I guess, Bob doesn't have arms, but this would be it here, right? And so when you're using this and working with beginners and you're teaching them the basic strikes, it's also great to visualize also what your targeting is going to be. So, and starting off, just from a beginner standpoint, there's like the Ekis, which is just angle 1 or 4, or in Asana it's 1 and 2, right? So, and you have to learn how to deal with your strike bouncing off of it, right? And this is great for solo training because it's way better from a strength perspective and also wrist control to be able to have to deal with that kind of resistance that you would normally get in solo training. And I had to get a lot into solo training during COVID as a result of all the schools closing and having tools like anything. You don't even necessarily have to have a bob, like the Wave Master is great too. And also just a volleyball pole with tubes wrapped around it can be great. So with the beginners, oftentimes you just do basic 1-2 combinations that are full beat. And you can layer that too. But where I think LeMayko really shines is also in the half beat combinations, right? So if you start going and it's 1 and 2, now you can do something like and, right? As opposed to, right? And that 100% requires the bounce to be there, as well as the strength in your arms. And the bob also allows you to adjust distance. Like let's say that you are doing a setup instead of a hit and a hit, you are visualizing a strike coming in from this side. So you block like an Estrella and then come in. So this also is a great visualization tool instead of just doing it in the air and having something just to be able to go, right? And now you can see and understand your stance and your distance and where you were before, right? So that's kind of the half beat methodology, but then the other thing that I think they really excel in is the misdirection or the feints, right?
The feints.
So that was like 1 and, but you can even be faster and more deceptive, and this is what I love doing in the mirror or in the camera right now, is like say you're in your normal stance, and in LeMayko and LeMayko Astig especially, we call it Jezebel. So you have a grip that is firm but relaxed. So it's strong, but it's not so strong that it travels up your arm. And you can't use your wrist anymore. You want to still have a good grip. And then you want your elbows in, your shoulders angled, not square. And then a live hand up here, bent knees. And then an invisible triangle so that you're not like too bladed in your body.
Yeah.
So this gives you a good base. And then also an even load distribution. And you don't want to also just be stiff like a statue, right? Like you want to, when you're facing an opponent, you want to have it a little bit alive. And those little motions, what I love, can be used as a misdirection or a feint. And so like, if you like are holding your hand like this, like hopefully that showed up, but like it's basically you're tilting the stick ever so slightly over to the left, and you're lifting your foot, so it looks like you're coming in with a backhand, but in the exact same beat. So not even half beat, it's like quarter or a fifth beat. You're actually doing
quarter of a
forehand, right? So, and that's, I think, also what's great about LeMayko is the emphasis on all of these misdirections.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You make them think that you're doing something and then go the opposite.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And then one of the other things that was um, emphasized a lot within Elemento Estig, and this was a question that was asked yesterday during the test stream, was plyometrics. And how do you
Mm.
apply plyometrics to everything? Well, what is plyometrics? So plyometrics is exercises that are specifically designed to improve muscle power, usually through the addition of body weight or additional weight. And especially with the material that Guru Roger likes to emphasize, and also Brenda King, was they like to take like a science-based approach
Hmm.
to combat. So there's a lot of banging. Hopefully you can't hear that, but there's a lot of banging
I
on the
thought you
other
were
side of the
hitting
wall.
Bob.
No. So it's not an earthquake either. Don't worry about it. But so science based. So power, as defined in physics, is the work that has to be done on a body over a certain period of time, right? So what is work? That is the amount of force that is then applied to that body to displace it a certain distance. And so physics actually tells us the attributes that we need to develop as martial artists in order to be
Hmm.
better at combat, right? Because what is force? It's mass times acceleration, and then you've got distance divided by time, right? So what are plyometrics? Okay, so you can add weights. You can add like 3 pounders, or you can add weighted knives. I'm borrowing these from Ron. Thanks, Ron. So there's your mass right there. And as you are developing and practicing all the moves with added weight, that will develop the strength in your muscles. I suppose you're also building muscle mass if you're really into it. And so the acceleration gets faster. The distance, as you are able to build the strength in your arms to get full extension, that's the distance. And then as you get faster, the time also decreases. All those things are factors that will contribute to greater power, right? So that's why plyometrics is so important and emphasized in LeMaco, and why I think it's really great for solo training, because I mean, I'm just in this room by myself, and I can get a fantastic workout just by doing this. I mean, these
Mm.
I think are like 4 pounds or 2 kilograms or something like that. Like just doing this 20 times, that by itself can be a workout. And as soon as you pick up a normal knife, that's going to be feather light to you, and you're just going to fly and just be super, super fast compared to everyone else, right?
Yeah. The
Um,
development of the muscular endurance is very functional in
Yes,
that respect.
exactly. So
Yes.
I think the incorporation of physical attributes is incredibly important and is particularly
Mm.
emphasized in Elemento's dig, and that's another thing that makes it extremely appealing to one like myself.
Mhm.
And then, so with the knives, I'll put these down. It's just a workout holding them. Yeah. So Lameko also has quite a lot of knife work into it, and that's actually what appeals to me the most compared to the stick, and I think is also the most applicable in terms of a self-defense situation. I think it is going to be much more likely in the United States for a person to encounter knives or an object of that size
Mhm.
as opposed to a sword or a baseball bat or something like that in a real life situation. So I think this is also much more realistic, right? But what also kind of shows how Lameko and Unisano was incorporated together and they're interrelated is you can see also in their knife flows and their work and
Mhm.
combinations how they were, how you can kind of start mixing and interchanging the different systems. Um, so, for example, there's one combination that I like to do. So that I learned from Roger, but actually, you can apply. moves from other systems into it. And I think that's what makes it so beautiful and interconnected. Is so like the first motion is you can do like a knife block, or you're just addressing some kind of attack that's coming from this direction, right? So knife block to a Sabayan, and so you're raising your left hand to maintain control of the attacking
Attacking arm.
arm, right? Yeah. While this one, so you can choose. You think they deserve to die for attacking you? You can go for the throat, or if not, then you can choose either the sternum, or even not even necessarily hit them with the blade, but with your
Yeah, less lethal.
fist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in the same motion as the cover, you can go for a cheek clap, and then another punch, and then a knife strike, or sorry, a bladed hand strike to their neck, right? So this is where you start again getting all the layered half beats and the efficiencies,
Yeah.
because if I turn sideways and I do it, you'll see that on my left hand, even though I'm doing multiple things, it's always staying out in the front. There's no gaps, and you're doing essentially 3 strikes in one beat, right? So it's one here. So it's almost like a double Sabayan almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what's great about this and how it starts to interrelate is because this combo actually can very much be applied to Jeet Kune Do and Wing Chun, right?
Yeah.
So instead of like a knife block, now you can do a Tan Tao, right? You can do that instead. Instead of doing like cover, you can do Bong Sao, right? And then Hua Choi. And then you do Wanjun. And then you can do Chong Choi and then Sub Sao. So they're very similar motions, and they are able to be incorporated all together. Or, like, you want to appeal to a broader audience? Like, there are so many gyms out there that offer weighted cardio kickboxing classes, right? A lot of the people going to those weighted cardio kickboxing classes are basically almost doing exactly the same thing. They may not necessarily be calling it, but they are definitely going like this. So when you're saying like this, and just go like this, like that is something that I think a lot of the general audience are able to relate to as well.
Yeah.
So those are more of a demo that I wanted to do more to explain the primary concepts behind Lameko and Asanto, as opposed to just working out in front of an audience.
So you basically talked about basically having 2 strikes in one beat,
Yeah.
or 1 strike in one beat. How does how does it basically show uh, in the mechanics of in the motion? Would you be able
Uh,
to expound on that, please?
that's where the efficiency gets in, and the economy of motion, because a lot of it is not retracting back. It's still occupying the face and the space in front of you and the center line. So the like if you think about it in this way, like in Wing Chun and JKD, like the Bong Sao, it's not just like a block where you're just putting it up, right? It's a multi-purpose attack where you're actually applying forward pressure, and that's
Mm-hmm.
another Lameko concept, weight transfer forward, WTF.
Yep. WTF.
And then so as soon as you have it straight like this, you turn it, and it's a continued motion into the Wanderer, right?
Mm.
So it's all like that, while still maintaining control of and addressing the attack that is coming in. So that's ridiculously efficient, right? If you never pull back, your body is always coming in forward.
Yeah.
Does that example help explain that?
Yeah. 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 And how does it relate to the footwork, for example?
To the footwork?
Yeah.
Oh, well, let's see. What's also great, I think, is that we do it on both sides. So you can step in at the same time as, like, I think the Wanderer. So like that. And so now it's all, your whole side is not only covering, but also attacking their face. And then now you're really in their space, assuming they haven't backed up, and you're following up with a punch. And you can do it on both sides, the left and the right. I think that's another important aspect of Lameko Estig is that
Yeah.
they train both sides with both the left and the right foot
Yeah.
in the lead.
Yeah. And also, not just going forward. You do it also when you're going backwards.
Yes, we do.
See, that's it's almost like whether you're going forward or
Mhm.
kind of like sort of like releasing the pressure. It's not really retreating, but you're just basically releasing the pressure from the oncoming attack, but you're still doing the same. You're dishing out the same
Yes, yes.
counter, the
It's
same
like
motion.
a
Yeah,
strategic retreat,
yeah,
tactical retreat,
a
right?
tactical
Like
retreat.
you're
Yeah,
not just stepping back, you're still doing stuff while getting
yeah,
yourself to safety or
yeah,
addressing their forward pressure.
yeah. I think it's one of the beautiful things of Lameco because you don't get that often in other, I think in other styles.
Hmm.
So, but here you really see it like being practiced. Yeah,
Hmm.
yes, Ron, footwork, weight
Yeah, weight
transfer
transfer
forward.
forward and backward, but that doesn't come up. There's not as clever of an acronym for that.
Yeah, yeah. You can't go WTB. Even though you're going backwards, you're still basically going WTF.
Yeah.
So okay, guys, do you got have you got any question with to Stephanie regarding the demo that she did? Okay, let's see. Has that sunk in?
The underwater knife fighting starting soon.
Glenn. That's from Glenn. Yeah, I forgot.
um, n- I don't have a poll here, unfortunately.
Maybe you can do an online lesson on that at least.
Maybe, yes, that will be the private Zoom lessons, underwater knife fighting.
Yeah. Okay, there's a comment here from GM Brown Frank. It's great that there are women in FMA, and women would not only do it but teach it. Understanding the edge and the use of an edge as a master separator is important. As Steph said, love the short body Turk. Yep.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. And yeah, Dean said the fakes in Lameco are exceptional.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is. I've always been interested in things that are able to stimulate me and challenge me both on a mental and physical level. And I think the fakes and the feints and adding those extra layers to the game really elevates it to a really fun form of FMA.
Yeah. And it's actually nice that you managed to not just show the link between the Lameco and the Inosanto, but you also
Hmm.
managed to link it together with Wing Chun.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, I think that it's very interconnected because uh, Bruce Lee studied Wing Chun, and that was incredibly formative in when he created Jeet Kune Do, and
Yeah.
then Rodan Inosanto then took that and incorporated it into his Inosanto blend.
Yep. Okay, we got a question from Glenn. How often do you do solo training? How long?
I
Example,
generally
7 days,
do
an hour a
solo
day?
training. Well, there's also that's a good question because sometimes you can do solo training, but on an online group as well. So this kind of material translates well to being taught over Zoom. I would say that for me, I typically aim for doing it 3 times a week. But because I do so much in terms of my other hobbies and also wanting to train with people, because I also recognize that there's a lot of material in FMA that can only be trained with partners. Um,
Yeah.
so I generally do solo training about 2 to 3 times a week, and then I'm generally attending martial arts classes 5 times a week. So it's a
So
lot of
when you
work.
do your solo training three times
Mhm.
a week, do you basically do you focus on something specific every day when you do it?
Um, it can change. So usually I will do it. I'll be drilling a specific set of combinations or moves,
Mm-hmm.
and those can be inspired by some of the material that I recently did in classes, or it can just be whatever I feel like. I get like if I haven't done something in a long time, like oh I should do this. And what's also great about the solo training is I can just do it in front of the TV or watching YouTube or something like that. So
Yeah, exactly.
and it can be however long you want. If I have the time, I could be doing it for half an hour to an hour, or sometimes some days I'm just busy or tired and I need a
Mm,
rest day. Five
mm,
minutes. That's
yeah,
all you need sometimes.
yeah. Actually, sometimes what I do is I play the Zoom lesson from Roger,
Hmm.
the recording, and then I try to do it again
Yes, that's
and
what's
listen
pretty
to the same
cool
thing again.
about.
Listen to the same rants.
Yes.
So basically, get to internalize it more.
Uh-huh. I think so. I mean, there's a lot less pressure in doing solo training. It's just you. You can go at your own pace.
Yeah,
You can really break each drill and movement down to just the things that you personally want to focus on.
yeah,
And
that's
I
true.
think that is a key component of attribute development and also curriculum
Mm,
development that I
yeah,
is well within everyone's individual power at home to do.
yeah. I mean, some people would be like you, okay? Even though you basically just, okay, this is what I would like to train for. You don't really like plan it way ahead of time, but at least you
Mm-hmm.
manage to do it. Some people need some of it, some bit of planning, sometimes some pushing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it's. I mean, I've done the Zoom class of Roger as well for almost 2 years now. So
Mm-hmm.
I really do enjoy it because it gives me that workout. It's a me time for me.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. So sometimes it's it doesn't feel great when you miss it because
Mm-hmm.
you know you're missing something that you should be doing at that point in time or at that point of Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
yeah. Okay. Um, there is one thing that we I don't know, guys, if you got any question about the solo training, just fire. Okay, we can go back to your questions. There is one thing that basically we kind of like spoke about uh last night. Well, afternoon on your side during the test run. The similarities between cave diving and studying FMA,
Oh
like the
yes.
development of awareness and
Uh-huh.
how technical both are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a topic we talked about yesterday, but you asked to further elaborate today, so I can go into that. Um, and a lot of people, when I talk to them, they're kind of shocked that there is any similarity at all. But that's what I think is so great about martial arts and other technically oriented sports is the universality of the human experience and that you can actually draw very similar lines between the two.
Mm.
And so I'll give a very specific example. My cave diving instructor, Natalie Gibb, she uses a teaching device for not just cave divers, just all divers can use this called the chain of command. And so it consists of five things. So first is breathing, buoyancy, trim, position, and buddy. Now, when you hear those terms, it's kind of hard to be like, how does that apply to martial arts or let alone like Kali or Eskrima or anything like that? But when you actually break it down into what they mean and translate in terms of you as a person and the human body, they very
Mhm.
much share all the same fundamentals. So breathing. I think that's probably the most obvious one, right? Like we all
Yep.
got to breathe, we're all powered off the lungs. But in terms of martial arts and also in diving, it's you're using your lungs to power and add force to your strikes, and
Mm.
you have to be consciously controlling your breath to add that power and time it with your strikes, right? Just as you are actually using the air or the gas in your lungs to control your buoyancy, which is
Yeah.
the next one. So buoyancy again, people are like, how what is this underwater knife fighting? Like what's going on here? Like, but
Glenn, watch out,
but
Glenn.
yeah, yeah, but actually, so like what is really buoyancy? How that translates into land is your footwork, right? Like
Yep, that's true.
how are yeah you it doesn't matter what amazing knife or empty hand techniques you are doing if your feet and your stance is bad, right? If you don't have the balance, if your legs are all tied up, you're not
Yep,
going to actually be able to pull off those moves well,
exactly.
let alone efficiently, right? So
Yep.
and it will be very easy for another person to kind of take you out because you're all tangled up in yourself
Yeah.
and you're easy to push over. And also with trim, for example. So what is trim? Okay, just for people who are non-divers, it's just essentially your position and orientation of your body in the water column. So usually it's preferred if you are horizontal, especially in technical diving. Although I suppose in open water, vertical is okay so long as you're not being a danger to yourself and others, and you're not kicking the crap out of the bottom of the ocean. But the same can be said of us in martial arts as well, right? So being conscious of your orientation and of your body is situational awareness for
Mm,
us, right? Like
situational awareness,
knowing
yes.
where your body, knowing your capabilities, knowing where you are oriented, like the Jezebel that I just said.
Mm,
How is the Jezebel any different from making sure that you are maintaining a good trim in the water, right? So
yeah.
there's that universality. And then there's position, right? So where are
Mm,
you with respect to your environment? Does it matter that that's underwater versus on land? No, you want to
yeah.
be aware of where you are. Are you currently being backed up against a wall? Where are the exits for you to get out, right? Those
Yeah,
are
that's
all
true.
important things for you to be aware of in both of those worlds. And then the last one, which is buddy, now, you may have a training partner, so they might be your buddy. Certainly, in diving, you want your buddy to be your friend, or at least
Mm-hmm.
not hate you. But that can be said also of like being conscious of where you are with respect to your opponent or your allies,
Yeah,
right? What is
that's
your
true.
range to them? Are they there? Are there multiples, right? So these are extremely basic fundamentals that apply to both systems. And I think that
Yeah.
can really apply to quite a lot of other sports too. So it's not just applicable to cave diving.
Yeah. Actually, I mean, some of them, even like in competitive swimming, you have
Mm-hmm.
you use basically the same principles. Like if you are, for example, like in a relay or in a even in a race that you've got other people on your side, you have to become aware of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just basically in cave diving.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's true. I mean, even like just think of like for example swimmers, the way you do your flutter kick.
Mm-hmm.
There is a way to do it where basically you can there's economy of motion for maximum propulsion, okay, or you can do it the bad way and basically move less. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. Yeah,
100%.
and yeah,
I mean,
breathe.
you've got a timer when you're down
Mhm.
and you have the gas that you have,
Yep.
and that's it. And so you have to plan
Yeah.
accordingly, and frequently you have to be extremely efficient, right?
Mm.
Because the more inefficient you are in terms of your body mechanics and motion, the more gas you're going to be using, and
Yeah.
especially in diving,
Exactly.
it's more of a marathon than a sprint. Like, I
Mm.
mean, if you are swimming for like a mile, you're going to use way more gas and energy that if your kicks suck and are inefficient, then if you actually are able to practice it and get a good, smooth, clean glide.
Yeah. And even like for example, buoyancy, with regards to footwork,
Mhm.
you should know when basically to move fast, when to ground yourself. So it's all part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, we've got a few more people here.
Yeah,
Okay,
some
Alvin is
arguments going
late.
on in the comments I see.
Yeah,
Luckily,
Glenn
we're
said
part of
just
a
lock
sport
yourself
where
as a
people
punishment.
can sort out arguments by just bashing each other with sticks, like civilized people.
Yeah, I mean, Richard is here from Texas as well.
Hmm.
Glenn posted a link to Budo videos. Uh,
Okay,
scuba Scuba Fighting DVD by Raymond Carter.
I'll have to
Well,
check it out.
yeah, check it out. And the next thing you know, Stephanie will actually be coming out with her own video.
That would be a cool
Underwater
thing to
knife
do.
fighting. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, yes. Okay. So, yep. Um, any more question, guys? Okay, just let's wait a little bit. I mean, so far we have basically like discussed all the topics that we want to. So we've gone to we've basically discussed your journey. We have gone as far as like the female in FMA, and you have basically shared your thoughts about it, your experience and your journey as well. And I mean, being blessed, having instructors who are role models and who are inspirational. um, I think
You
okay.
look flummoxed. What's up?
Um, all right. Shall shall we throw some questions about diving, maybe?
Okay, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
I think we have a few
So
minutes.
yeah. Okay. Okay. But before that, Glenn just asked a question: is there a ground grappling
I don't
or
think so.
ground
There
fighting in a squid
are takedowns and
system?
control elements, um, but to my knowledge, there isn't. Lameko is Largo, Medio, and Corto. That's what
So
it
it's really
stands
more of a
for.
stand-up.
So it's more stand up.
Okay. Right. So there is a diving related question here by Julius. Um, how many wreck dives have you done? And what was your
Um,
favorite?
I'm not entirely sure the exact number because my dive log got accidentally wiped about
Oh
five
no.
or 6 years ago. But I would say that I have done about 30 to 40 wreck dives.
Okay. Are they any different from like a normal dive? Is there any like technical aspect to wreck diving?
For sure. Anytime that you have or you are unable to go up to the surface immediately in an emergency, whether that is a soft or hard barrier, soft being like if you've gone so deep that you require decompression stops on the way
Mm-hmm.
up, or hard being you have some physical obstruction or ceiling above you that is preventing you from just immediately ascending to the surface, that is considered technical diving. And so when you penetrate inside a wreck, that can definitely be considered technical diving. And frequently, wrecks are also at a depth where you have both the physically hard obstruction as well as needing to do the decompression.
Wow. So it's almost like even though you same as same as with martial art, even though basically you plan, there's still certain things that basically catches you like or surprises you, and you have to make like immediate decisions as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. Whenever you're in an overhead environment, anything that goes wrong, you need to address it then and there because you need to get back to the surface.
Hmm. Okay. So there you go. Yeah. He was asking here if you know Rachel Donaire, but you from Taekwondo.
Donaire. I
Rachel
don't think so.
Marshall?
That doesn't ring a bell.
Okay. Okay. Oh, Richard is asking, is this free dive or scuba?
Scuba
If
diving.
free,
I'm actually a pretty terrible free diver because I have issues with being able to equalize my ears. So scuba diving allows me to descend at a very slow rate and allow me to equalize, whereas with free diving I can't really do that.
okay. Considering divers have strong lungs and increased lung capacity, how does that help you in sparring?
I would say, well, unfortunately, because I don't do free diving, I probably don't benefit from that. And we like to say that you shouldn't hold your breath in scuba diving for a few different reasons. And so I personally don't benefit from that.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Uh, sorry. The. Yeah. Yeah, maybe just one more for the diving one. What kind of camera gear
Yeah.
do you take scuba diving?
Sorry,
What's
what?
your favorite? What kind of what kind of camera gear?
I do not. I don't actually generally take cameras with me either. I like to dive in the moment. One of the reasons I like scuba diving is it's very zen. I can just focus on what is in front of me. And to be perfectly honest, especially in technical diving, I think a lot of the incidents and fatalities that occur is the result of being distracted due to camera use. It's especially in cave diving. It has certainly happened where a person will just swim off the line or down the wrong passage because they were so focused on their camera.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean,
Hmm.
when I think when I did my tandem skydive, I even forgot about I've got a camera. I just went like, okay, just absorb everything that is happening. I've never dived in any form. Is it a workout for you?
Oh yeah, for sure. Just the amount of gear that you have to carry once you put it on. I think when I'm diving here in California in cold water and in Monterey, I think my typical gear setup is I'm wearing about 70 to 80 pounds.
Okay.
So yeah, so having to walk down to the water now, and then you're also generally swimming for quite a long time. And when you have that much gear on, you're not streamlined. It's not like you're just freestyle swimming in a pool. So that creates quite a lot of drag. Plus, you're cold. Even in tropical water, anytime you're in water that is at a temperature below that of the human body, you're going to be losing heat, and it takes energy for your body to generate that heat. So you can actually get hypothermic even in tropical Caribbean waters if you're down like on repeated dives and multiple dives per day. So all of that can definitely result in fatigue and it being quite a workout.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's turned into a diving podcast.
Nah. Nah. I think I mean segueing it from the
Hmm.
similarities in martial arts and scuba diving may have actually opened some questions.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean the thing is it's actually nice to interview people who basically have managed to draw similarities from what they do outside FMA. Because
Hmm.
definitely one of the things that as martial artists or martial art should that basically martial art actually allows or brings us is uh, things that we can apply to daily life or things that we can apply to our work. So it's not just really about fighting.
Hmm.
So if we manage to learn how to how to basically handle stress, anxiety, um, and manage to bring it to work, manage to bring it to daily life. That is really important.
Yeah,
Okay.
100%. Controlling your emotions is super important in both martial arts and also diving. Know, like, I mean, we all get that adrenaline rush when we're about
Mm,
to spar someone or be in a tournament, and being able to control that jump in your heart rate, the shaking of your hands,
mm,
remembering to breathe in those situations is super important in being able to survive or be successful
yeah.
in a sparring match.
Mm, yeah. Actually, since we're basically in that topic, one of the things that we did while I was in the uni, while I was teaching, because we do quite a lot of research in sports psychology.
Mm-hmm.
So and because we work with a lot of athletes, especially taekwondojins back then, because my professor is also a taekwondojin. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, he's Dutch, and he's really into his taekwondo. We every time that the athletes get into competition, so not just collegiate athletes but also national level athletes, we actually take their anxiety level,
Mm-hmm.
both the trait and state anxiety, and we always find out that and we track it. So like for example, one day one day before the competition, or like 3 days before the competition, one day before the competition, 3 hours or 1 hour before the competition. So there's about like five datas that we're getting. So it always shows that as the competition grows nearer, their anxiety level actually goes up. And this is in relation because this is in relation to the arousal level
Mm-hmm.
of the person. Okay. But then after that, uh, you can now see basically experienced athletes manage to handle their anxiety level, their arousal level more or better than the new ones. And this is one of the reasons why sometimes we say experience actually um, teaches you quite a lot of things. And experience allows you basically to handle all
Mm-hmm.
this your stress and anxiety, which basically it shows in the athletes. And there were studies like, for example, like skydivers who have done numerous dives, they always feel that anxiety level going up just before they
Mm-hmm.
jump off the plane. And then once they're out of the plane, it becomes it becomes like calmness. That's what they always say. So it basically anxiety level is always going to always it's always going to go up, especially uh, basically run up to your competition. But once you're there, it's basically how you handle it. That is what is really important.
Yeah, uh-huh. I mean, part of that is knowing and expecting that autonomic response in your body so
Yep.
that you, by anticipating that, you can better handle it in the moment.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. There's a follow-up question from Richard here. So, with that kind of workout from scuba diving, does the sparring seems less tiring? I think he is he's kind
Uh-huh.
of like getting I think angling it more on the overload principle of training. So
Uh-huh.
basically because you there's kind of like an overload in scuba diving, so does it make it less tiring for you? So cardiovascular wise.
Um, I think they work different things. Like, I think you're definitely using different muscles uh, in scuba diving than in martial arts. You typically want to be propelling yourself just with your feet, for example, in scuba diving. So it's, as a result, your hands are not doing much 90% of the time, and so you're not really developing strength during that part of the dive.
Yeah.
Certainly, having to plug that much weight and tanks around can be quite a burden. It's almost like a hike, especially with the cave diving, where you're often going downstairs or sometimes like down steep slopes and whatnot, or just carrying it down long paths to the jungle. That can definitely be a good workout, but it's a different form of cardio. Like it's the long, slow burn rather
Mhm.
than like hit
High intensity.
workout, right? Yeah, like high intensity interval training. It's not like that. In fact, you want your heart rate to be pretty low and constant and be relaxed in scuba diving as opposed to just being like otherwise you're just gonna suck down your gas really fast.
Okay. It's almost like it prepares you for like chess matches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or even I would say like gymnastics. So
Mm-hmm.
you want to have that kind of like balance
Mm-hmm.
in your okay. Right. Danny, Tuan Danny is on the house. Okay, he has a question. Sorry to be late. Awesome to see females in FMA. I don't think we what what do you hold on. uh, what do you feel or what do feel as we community can do to get more females involved in FMA?
Oh, okay. I think we did talk about that a little bit. So
Yeah.
perhaps in the recording, Danny can go back, but I can repeat a little bit. I think a lot of it in the recruitment is just the public face of FMA. Frequently, when you see the marketing materials for it, you don't often see a lot of women, and so it kind of sends a, a subtle message that it's not for them. It's mainly a guy thing. And then also just having more women instructors to help create a safe space for them and for when they walk into the door and if they just see all guys, then it can be very difficult. And I recognize that's a chicken and the egg problem because you can't have more female instructors and female students if it like to attract more female instructors and female students, right? If you have zero, so it is
Mm.
a very tough problem. But also, just once they get there, keeping them at
It's
your
another
school
thing.
can also be
Yeah.
important, and that's doing personal and individual assessments and making sure that you hear and communicate with them clearly about what they are looking for in martial arts and seeing if they're a good fit um,
Mhm.
for your school.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Mark Stewart's commented combative athletics rules. Also, Danny, the mentality required to maintain focus and calmness in scuba is very similar to what one needs in a high stress self defense situation.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's
Very
true.
much so. And when things go wrong, and things do go wrong in scuba diving, you also should not panic because if you do, you can make the situation and the whatever emergency that you had
Yeah.
now become 2 to 3 emergencies, and
Yeah.
now you're in really
That's
big
true.
trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, uh, this particular level of focusing and calmness happens with experience as well. Okay.
Yes.
It's
Mhm.
something that, yeah, yeah. And it's the reason why we always even say like in martial arts especially you have to immerse yourself like if it is sparring that you like spar because that's
Yeah.
basically what the experience that you gain from sparring basically gives you all the elements to stay focused and calm in those situations that almost like it's
Hmm.
you're okay so
Yeah, a big
um
contributing element to that is the unknown. And so, if you are
mm,
practicing those situations and exposing yourself to those situations all the time and rehearsing and drilling your response,
mm,
then that the fear that is stemming from the unknown can be
yep,
addressed.
yep, that's true. That's true. Okay, Glenn said discussing on the stress and sparring is fascinating. Thank you both. Yeah, very welcome, Glenn.
Yeah.
Danny Tyrrell, excellent. So, yep, yes, exactly, Danny. Takes experience, good instruction, and practice. Yep, very true.
Hmm.
You need to have a combination of that, and yeah.
Yeah, a good instructor
Uh,
will expose their students to all those situations so that it
yep,
won't catch them hopefully off guard if they
yep,
were to experience them in a less controlled environment.
yep, yep, and also a good coaching. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Um, Richard commented, Danny, yeah, I see that often with BJJ rolling. White belts panicking versus black belts being chill and awareness of what's going on. That's true. I think
Hmm.
in BJJ, once you're a white belt, the first thing that you need to learn is to survive.
Yeah, I don't have much experience in BJJ, but I can understand that in the other arts that I've done.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same thing when you
Hmm.
like start sparring with somebody who is experienced. All you need
Yeah,
to do is basically survive the bout, learn from your mistakes, move on. That's it, and then gain your experience from there.
yeah, I think that's an important part of learning. At the same
Mm.
time, the more experienced person, having been in their shoes, um, should also make it so that that person is not just simply fighting for their life and just trying to
Yeah.
survive and breathe. For that
Mm.
person to actually learn and absorb new material
Yeah.
and also be
Exactly.
comfortable to practice that new material on in a more real time experience, you
Yeah.
still need to be somewhat cognizant and create like a safe, controlled sandbox for them to
Yeah.
do that in. So, but that's very easy to do. I mean, you can just say we're only going to go 30%, and that will
Mm.
allow you to be able to try new moves that you're not fully confident in without accidentally hurting your partner because you don't have the control. And likewise, if like you can also say like we're only targeting these certain things.
Yeah. You
There,
can
there are
isolate.
there are
Yeah.
ways that you can frame sparring into a technical exchange so that you can learn and practice new material, or even just eliminate scoring entirely. If you're not focusing
Mm.
on points anymore or looking good, that all of a sudden mentally opens up so much and you're willing to experiment more and learn
Yeah.
more.
Yep. Yeah. 100% agree on that one.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, are there any more question, folks, for Stephanie? Okay. While waiting for them, maybe um this is basically the question that we normally ask. The very last question that we ask
Okay.
from our guests. So, um, what advice or in your end? So basically, what advice can you give to both to FMA practitioners, both gender,
Hmm.
okay, for the betterment of the community, and basically to uplift and to basically to maybe to unify the
Hmm.
FMA community. So have a think.
Hmm.
Don't rush.
All right. Um, I would say one of the most important takeaways is to understand that every practitioner is an individual on their own personal journey, that they are all looking for different things. And it happens on both sides. As we, as the practitioners, need to take it upon ourselves to look for schools, instructors, training groups, styles, weapons that fit us, that fit our body, that fit our needs and our mentality and what we want in life. And I think it's also important for instructors and schools to also recognize that not every student that comes in through the door is the same. Some may need
Mm,
they're looking for different things. They may need some modification in their training. Not everyone may be comfortable doing everything. And also, they may not want to always just train with you. They may want to be training across multiple schools, right? So, giving them that opportunity is also important.
okay,
Hmm.
there you go. Very nice answer.
Thanks.
So, I mean, unless there's any more question from our viewers, um, I would like to to take this opportunity basically to thank you, Steph, for being our guest
Yes,
in
thank
the
you.
FMA
Likewise. Thank you
discussion.
for having me.
Yeah, from being Hyle's training buddy or sidekick during his during his interview.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you very much, and yeah, thank you for the wisdom that you basically have shared with us tonight.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. So yep, yep. So Richard says, yeah, thank you, Guru Steph. Milabel, good to get to know you a little bit, Steph. All right. So till the next time we see each other in Roger's Zoom.
Yes.
Stay safe. Thank you very much.
You too. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye.
Okay. So guys, thank you very much for tuning in with this episode 331 interview with Stephanie Lee. So don't forget tomorrow it's going to be an interview with Burton Richardson. And on Tuesday, I'm going to be interviewing GM Bram Frank, and we'll be discussing the all his toys. Okay, so basically the crimp and the other blades that he basically sells. So he's going to do a demo explaining how the crimp works. If you're interested, tune in on Tuesday. The test run is going to be on Monday. Okay. Have a nice day, guys, where you are. Nice afternoon, nice evening. Okay. And enjoy your week. Bye.